we'll find out soon enough. But first, while we've got a minute, we will observe our host country's national anthem. So, the anthem of Portugal is incoming. There we go. So I will. All right, folks. So as you can see here, we are just trying to figure out how to get myself retired from this race to make sure we can spectate properly. Formation lap is very much ongoing right now. And let's just see. I'm basically on autopilot as I make my way around here. That might be the best lap we see all night, to be quite honest, although I wouldn't hold my breath on that. And yeah, I might not be able to retire until the race itself begins. So that unfortunately is problematic. So we are in a little bit of a holding pattern as the formation lap begins. Or actually, we're coming up toward the end of it here. We're at one of the kind of inclines here. It's almost like now that I look at it, Riggs, it's almost like a European equivalent of Interlagos, if that makes sense. I'm just kind of realizing that connection now.
As in a track comparison?
Yeah, it's not exactly the same, obviously, but you know, there's the elevation changes, that long winding turn toward the start-finish line.
I know some people have compared it as like a European version. I assume Portugal's in Europe, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Okay, I just had to make sure on that one. I should probably stay some more geography. Yeah, I guess you could call Portugal like it's like the European Coda. Like Circuit of the Americas in a way, because Circuit of the Americas has a lot of swooping corners. Elevation changes aren't near as high and low, but there are still some notable like kind of up and downs, but there's more so like going like whoop to the left, whoop to the right, and just kind of all over the place in that sense. So that's kind of a fair evaluation, except for the fact that you're going like kind of whoop up high, whoop down low in most areas.
And speaking of whoops, I hope I am not gonna screw things up for everyone here. Okay, so we're back in spectator mode and we're back live. We couldn't get the start off of that just because of that weird quirk. 33 laps here tonight at... shoot, I had my computer. Oh no, never mind, we're good. So I am live here now as we see Mason Pope in the lead here early on. It looks like he's gotten a great jump off the line. He's already a couple seconds up on Corbin McCauley. That lead is just growing here by the minute. As we see Jason Butler picking up a 5-second penalty for exceeding track limits. Butler down in 8th here to start.
I believe I saw there, looking at the replay right here, there's one little dot there, I believe, come through. Okay, never mind. I'm guessing there might have been a glitch right there or whatever, but it wouldn't surprise me if there may have been a couple cars possibly off there at the beginning through these wet conditions. And yeah, there's the penalty coming up for me there. But yeah, Mason Pope has gone to a very far lead now. It's about 2.5 seconds-ish that I'm seeing now. It might be a different story with this awful quality I'm getting through the software. But yeah, Darcy Ford looks to have moved up to third there. So yeah, Mason Pope, Corbin McCauley just kind of staying up there in first and second, although the gap between cars is definitely a lot less between second and third place, fourth and fifth, and a couple of gaps more towards the back there. And it's unfortunate that Jordy Carraher had the DNF out of this route.
Man, oh man, what an incompetent driver, right? At least we're
I'm just
able
going to keep saying that.
At least we're able to watch 13 competent drivers. I can't say fairly; they're better than both you and I. As we're on to lap 2 here now, and you'll note the conditions have actually deteriorated from what they are in qualifying or what they were. Everybody on full wets here to start this one, and if you saw the pit strategies a little bit earlier, it's calling for full wets the entire way. As we're getting our first look at a battle between Colby Luca and Robert Narakaj. Luca trying to grab 4th place here.
All I'm going to say is fantastic.
I mean, that's a great variable of these Formula One games, of course, the wet weather. And looks like we got some options here as we've got somebody off. Is that Darcy Ford, perhaps? There you see the pit strategies coming up again, as that was actually Mike Nickens who took a bit of an off in his number 26 Guardian livery, as he's dropped down to 12th, or 13th, so to speak, as that's actually Michael Greathouse that took that off run. As we see Nickens, he's off just a couple corners later, and it looks like his afternoon is done after just a lap and a half. So not the way that Nickens would have wanted this one to go. It looks like he's gone wide on one of those turns toward the end of the lap. And so a lap and a half in, we've got our first official retirement. I would not be surprised if that's not the last, given the conditions.
Yeah, based on the way he sounded with his messages and such heading into this, I don't think he had the biggest confidence ever. Although he did try to stay positive at least. But it's unfortunate that he will not be able to continue the race beyond the first lap here. And it just kind of continues to remain the same there. Mason Pope is just putting an absolutely wild gap over McCauley by about over 3.5 seconds here. Darcy Ford is staying close there in third place. Still just, he's trying to catch up. But again, I think you did mention earlier that he did go wide, so that probably didn't help. Although, looking more now at what I'm trying to see off of what you're sharing with me here, it might actually be a bit closer than I am thinking it is.
Yeah, so I'll give you a little bit more insight here. It looks like positions 2 through 5, if my math is correct here, separated by about 3 seconds covering those 4 positions. So while there isn't anything imminent in terms of a battle, although Darcy Ford would like to make something imminent on this front straight coming up onto the back of McCauley as they come through turns 1, 2, and 3. He's got that gap down under half a second now for second place. And you see Ford has closed the gap as they pull up the hill in what would have been a DRS zone here, which would have been open at this point if it was, of course, a dry race. Very much not a factor in the wet, although McCauley goes wide, Ford makes the move, and that is second place now for Darcy Ford as he's made the move again. McCauley just a little bit wide there into turn 5, maybe just, well, it'd be very easy to say the grip just was not there going into turn 5, and that was an area the way I identified as a spot to overtake even in the dry as Ford tries to make a move here. Meanwhile, we got a yellow in sector 2. It's one of the Silver Hornets off. That may be Darcy Cudmore making his way back on track. Didn't 100% see what happened, just happened to see that little dot on the map. Meanwhile, we'll bring it back up to the head of the field. Corbin McCauley looking to get back into it, but Robert Narakaj wants to tag along, as now positions 2 through 4 separated by a second. And Colby Luca hanging around a further second back here as they make their way onto that front stretch.
So yeah, we saw there obviously Macaulay going wide there in turn 5. That is definitely one of the corners where you easily have an opportunity to end up, obviously against you, end up locking up your wheels right there and going wide. Because I mean, again, though, whenever you have to get around that sharp corner, you have to yank your wheel all the way to the left and make sure at the same time when you're trying to kind of exit off that corner, you don't end up losing the car right there either. So it's kind of a tight corner in a sense where you may end up going wide, but at the same time, though, it's a loose corner where trying to get around it fully and successfully, your car will kind of go like a little shaky and back and forth. So it's definitely a very interesting one between tightness and looseness. It has that kind of diversity right there, although obviously not mostly positive in any way, shape, or form. That's what we unfortunately saw there with Macaulay going wide. So again, he's still in third place though, not too shabby. Again, I'm still seeing Mason Pope is putting on an insane, like over 5.5 like plus second gap there over Darcy Ford, and the gap between looks to be second and sixth, fifth, whatever there is starting to slowly shrink a little bit, although the cars are staying as relatively close as they can possibly get.
Yeah, it's pretty well station to station. Obviously, you know, a lot more difficult to overtake in the wet as well with the virtual spray coming up. So obviously optimum position right at the head of the field. Mason Pope is there as he's begun lap 6. 6.1 seconds up now on Darcy Ford. And Ford, notably as the field looks like it's kind of settled down a little bit, he is the kind of chief mover so far in terms of positions, as you can see on the screen. He's up 2 from where he qualified in 4th, as Pope even gets it a little bit loose there out of 5. But yeah, any other position change that's happened on track, it's been up 1 or down 1. So after a bit of initial movement, not so much going on right now. As again, we'll bring it back to probably the best battle on track here, with Darcy Ford going through the screen first, Corbin McCauley, who we're watching right now, and Robert Narakaj there in 4th, Colby Luca rounding out the top 5. Again, they're all chasing the rum runner that is Mason Pope. And I can actually say that without it being offensive. That is the name of the team that he's driving for. So that is, you know, a notable point there to make. So as we reset the top 10 right now, again, it is Pope leading 6.1 seconds up on Darcy Ford. Corbin McCauley 3rd, as we see Michael Greathouse picking up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings on track. That could be just exceeding track limits, something like that. And again, not the easiest thing to control here in the wet. So don't be surprised if we see a bit more of that. Anyway, McCauley still 3rd, Narakaj there in 4th, Colby Luca rounds out the top 5. Then you got the 2 Alpha Flows of Michael Dimitrov and Dan Cudmore, 6th and 7th respectively. Jason Butler 8th, and it would remain a net 8th despite the 5-second time penalty he's got on his account. Cody Cudmore 9th. Ivan Reynolds rounds out the top 10, and then our final 2 runners, as we see Narakaj make a nice move there on McCauley. And again, it's turn 5 where the Red Dirt Racing driver, it looks like he's maybe gotten caught out of shape here as Narakaj tries to hold position. McCauley might actually get it back. Contact! Contact between those 2.
And a car round?
Yeah, I think it was either McCauley or Narakaj that got kind of turned around there. And they've dropped down to 5th and 6th respectively. Luca moving up into 3rd, Dimitrov now 4th.
Trying to see on the replay here, I think, yeah, there was a bit of slowing down there, and yeah, McCauley and Narakaj there, it's kind of a hard one I'm seeing here. They just both randomly slowed down a ton going into that one corner there where they both got together. They were side by side going down what was kind of a straightaway in a way, and also a bit of a wide corner there.
Yeah, I mean,
it's trying to see there, it kind of looked like for a second McCauley got kind of like squeezed down a little bit before they eventually got into that corner where they got together. and it's kind of hard to tell. There was just a bit of slowing down from Macaulay. He went wide up in the Narakash, who kind of looked like he may have potentially gone wide there, more on the outside. So it's might have been kind of a racing deal, but at the same time, though, it does look like, yeah. But at the same time, though, it did kind of look like Macaulay went a little bit wide there, right into Narakash's kind of side, like path there along his side. So a bit of a weird one, but I think it's fair to call that one a racing deal for now until we kind of maybe get the driver's opinions on it, as long as it's civil.
Yeah, I would say, and again, in the wet, I think you do have to allow for a little bit more of that, as we just saw Jason Butler pick up another 3-second time penalty there, so he's got 8 seconds to account for in his penalty run here. Again, it still puts him in a net 8th, but whether he serves it in pit lane or just gets it added at the end of the race, Butler, it's a little bit tighter there in relation to Cody Cudmore, who's 11 seconds back in 9th. As we got a yellow in Sector 3, that's an Alpha Flow off. And is that Dimitrov or Cudmore? It looks like Cudmore's moved off, so that would be Michael Dimitrov, who had the issue as Colby Luca posts the fastest lap of the race now, 132.864 that time around. And oh boy, I don't know if you saw that on the replay there, Riggs. Dan Cudmore absolutely squirrely out of that final turn. I cannot imagine how hard the handle is on these cars right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, in these conditions, you're going to be loose all over the place, and especially with him as well. I'm sure there's probably a bit of frustration there, but at the same time, as long as he can kind of keep himself in track and get the pit strategies right, and kind of take it a bit more easy, and trying to avoid a bit of the aggressiveness going through these corners here, especially trying to improve himself in turn 5, which seems to be kind of his just kind of like a hell spot for him at the moment. It keeps kind of tightening up and going wide there. So again, there's still plenty of time for things to roll through, as long as he doesn't get any penalties or anything, exceed the track limits, try and take it a bit more easy instead of being aggressive. I'm sure things could turn out better, but then again, though, these wet conditions are just not really helping out anyone other than maybe Mason Pope of all drivers. So
meanwhile, as you say that, he also got a little bit of help a moment ago, as it looks like Darcy Ford had a bit of an off, and now you're seeing Colby Luca in second place as a result. And Luca just took the position there a moment ago. We just missed it on our feed. But yeah, now Luca's up into second place, albeit 8.5 seconds back of our race leader, Mason Pope, in the Rum Runner Racing outfit, as we've just begun lap number 10 of 33 here tonight. And a couple options playing out pit strategy wise. I would imagine most will probably split it down the middle, given that it looks like it's going to be a wet race all the way through. So I'd expect the pit window to be around 5 or 6 laps from now, again, as we approach that halfway point. But again, things looking really good here for Mason Pope in the number 95. And again, Pope looks like he's got absolutely the best handle of anybody here at Portimao right now. And yeah, not really a whole lot going on in terms of battles. I guess we could go back to Dan Cudmore in 6th place, trying to track down Corbin Macaulay. 1.3 seconds separating the two of them. Of course, our two season champions on the Formula One side, Macaulay taking season 1, Cudmore taking season 2. So an interesting, not quite midfield battle, but certainly not far off from that. Certainly kind of in that little spot between midfield and head of the field right now, as it looks like Luca's starting to eat into a little bit of that gap. It's down to 7.4 seconds, as sure enough, Luca posts another fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 32.846. And ooh, nice save there from Luca coming out of turn 2. Able to hold on to that. And again, that gap coming down to 7.2 seconds. So Colby Luca, he's certainly interested in tracking down Mason Pope, and obviously, why wouldn't he? We're only at 1/3 race distance right now. Still lots of time for things to happen, as we've seen already. Speaking of things happening, are we about to see a move here? Well, we're about to see a time penalty for Corbin McCauley, as that turn 5 gremlins got him again to the tune of a 3-second time penalty, which I would have to think would be for exceeding track limits. So hard in the wet, but track limits are track limits.
Yeah, you good over there?
Yeah, I muted.
All right, yeah, but yeah, I guess I must have jinxed McCauley there, unfortunately, after what I was saying earlier. But yeah, I just went back and saw Robert Narkaj's wild save right there. His rear wheels were about turned right there. Into the wide corner there. Yeah, his wheels, he looked like he was about to possibly even like lock up the steering wheel there and possibly do like a side lock or whatever the term is in your car, going right around back the other way. But yeah, an incredible rear end save there from Narakaj, and then he was able to get into turn 5 successfully, unlike McCauley, who hasn't been able to get to that, unfortunately, as we just recently saw the time penalty there. So yeah, great save from Narakaj. I really thought he was I thought he was going around right there, but yeah, great handling of the wheel by him.
Well, I don't know whether it's just the weather or the water coming from the rain, but not unlike water, it's absolutely washing some things away. As Colby Luca, he is absolutely cutting into Mason Pope's lead here. It's down to 4.1 seconds now, as Cody Cudmore just picked up a 3-second time penalty of his own. But right now, yeah, Pope is gonna have some purple in his mirrors here soon enough, as that Aries Racing car of Colby Luca is coming up fast, as we got a yellow in sector 1. That'd be, we got a safety car now, lap 12.
Oh boy.
This, not entirely unexpected, it has to be said. And you'd have to think, given the... Wait, what exactly are we seeing here?
What?
Okay, so we just had a game glitch here. We just had a number of drivers get screwed on drive-through penalties there for speeding under the safety car. Clearly they wouldn't have had enough time to get into that mode. But we are seeing some pit stops now. Notably, Colby Luca has not, so he's inherited the lead of this race. Mason Pope is in. Darcy Ford is in. Narakaj is in. Cudmore and Dimitrov both in. That'll be the 2 Alpha Flows. Jason Butler in. And Corbin McCauley staying out, preferring the track position, perhaps with the time penalty in mind. And yeah, I guess some guys deciding to serve those drive-throughs straight away. And yeah, we'll have to see. Typically the safety car window about 3 laps on these games, so we'll have to see if that holds true. And again, now we'll have to see who's gonna do what tire-wise. It looks like Dan Cudmore is on intermediates. Let's get some tire details now. And indeed, the drivers who've come in, they've all come in for the inters. So I wonder if this is a calculated risk where the track is changing enough for the tire to change, or whether this is gonna just go up in flames here for them.
Well, yeah, that's the thing here with these intermediate tire compounds. It's a risk between maybe the rainy conditions will possibly improve over the next half of this race, or maybe the drivers are just taking on the risk to possibly see if these other compounds will end up benefiting them in terms of better speed and being able to keep the gaps a lot closer with the other cars here. But yeah, it could be either one. We don't know. We won't know exactly for a little bit here, but all we know is these risks here. It's going to benefit some drivers. It's going to definitely put some drivers down. We'll just have to find out. Wait and see here. And yeah, it's unfortunate. A couple of guys are getting some time penalties here. Saw one guy get the drive-through for speeding under the safety car, which I don't understand what really went on there. And,
we saw a few of them, yeah.
Yeah, and do you have a clue on why the safety car was exactly out?
So it looked like it must have been just a dangerous part of the track. I think it was a Silver Hornet that got turned around, whether it was Cody or Darcy Cudmore. I'm not 100% sure, but I know we had a yellow and then it turned into full course safety car after that. So yeah, I don't have a window on that, but what I can tell you is that both Colby Luca and Corbin McCauley, 1 lap later than their kind of competitors, they've now come in for their pit stops as well. They've moved on to intermediates. Notably, the one driver who's made a pit stop and decided to stay on full wets, Cody Cudmore down there in 8th. So if we find that the intermediates are not the right play, look for that number 15 to potentially jump up the board here in relatively short order once we get back to green flag racing.
Well, yeah, that's the thing too. Consider we're under the safety car. This is going to give in a perfect opportunity for all the cars to pack right back up and we get right back to racing. So if Cudmore can catch up to these other guys and possibly be able to benefit in the long term by getting through the field and avoiding any potential carnage that might happen with these risks that the drivers are taking with the intermediate tire compounds, we may end up seeing a potential upsetter. We saw Cody Cudmore put on an upsetter, I believe it was last season, where he scored the pole. I believe it was in Australia, I believe. That's what my memory has. Yeah, you're nodding there, so yes, I am correct there. Thank you for that. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see here. Will Cody Cudmore shock us all with a surprising victory here, or are we just kind of maybe jumping the gun and maybe the intermediate, like we're kind of overestimating the possibility of chaos with the intermediate compounds? We'll just have to wait and see here. The second half of the race is coming up right here as the safety car will end very soon.
As well, on this final lap, I would say, of the safety car period, it looks like Robert Narakaj and Darcy Ford are both pitting, and I wonder, they're pitting again, so A, we'll see if there's a tire change, and B, we'll see if it's exclusively for drive-through penalties, because we know Darcy Ford had incurred a drive-through penalty, as it looks like, yeah, he's just put on a new set of intermediates by the looks of it, unless it's changed back to wets. I'm not 100% certain on that. I see an eye on the screen right now, but we'll figure that out soon enough. As again, it looks like the field is pretty well bunched up here with, again, the exception of Narakaj and Ford. And, okay, so getting confirmation from Narakaj that he was attempting to serve the drive-through penalty. Getting that from our Facebook group. And I would imagine Darcy Ford was trying to do the same. So, wondering if maybe the drive-through has to be served under green flag conditions.
Yeah, that would not surprise me at all, and that is definitely what Narakaj is not going to want. He just had another reaction right there. That's definitely not the answer he wanted, considering he has been performing decently well and made a fantastic save earlier in the race. So, yeah, that's going to be quite unfortunate. Yeah, he was apparently dead stopped on the track, and yet he still got the drive-through penalty. I believe that was his PSN that came up there. Yeah. He was the guy who got the drive-through. Yeah, that was him. So,
and again, Darcy.
Yeah, that's a very surprising one. That's a very surprising one. I don't know if I'll agree with it.
And yeah, no, it's a strange one, and yeah, very unfortunate there for Narakaj, and I think Darcy Ford's caught in the same thing. But in the meantime, we did get the answer that the safety car is in, and it's green flag here as we begin lap number 16. Looks like Pope's gotten a really good jump off the line here once again. And Cudmore not wanting to let him out of the sights, though. The Alpha Flow is now 2 and 3. And Luca trying to make a move there on the inside of 1 by the looks of things. Meanwhile, Dimitrov's gotten up. Cudmore's losing out here. That'd be Dan. As he's fallen down from 6th, and now he's into 7th. Not 100% sure what happened. Maybe he just got loose in a turn. But certainly a nightmare restart there for the defending series champion. But Mason Pope, he's gotten off like an absolute dream here as we begin this next green flag stint. Notably, Cody Cudmore up a couple of positions.
So yeah, Pope off to a good start here. It looks like no one really had any issues in the back other than maybe the potential situation with Cudmore there that you mentioned. But yeah, looks like everyone was able to get through pretty safely there thus far. And we can see there, yeah, I seeing on the replay there, I'm getting here, yeah, Cody Cudmore on the wets. He's now in 5th place, although there is some time penalties that you can see there up on the board, so that might play into potential effect here. But at the same time, though, he's in 5th place. If his decision to stay on the wet tires ends up benefiting in the long term, we may be witnessing the beginning of a potential upset right here.
And
Although I wouldn't saying that might be a little bit awkward considering Mason Pope is right now absolutely shattering the field as if he was Max Verstappen.
And on that very point, you saw he just set the fastest lap of the race. So clearly the track is coming to the inters, as he just posted a 1:30.211. We were looking at somewhere in the 1:32s as we were kind of in full wet conditions before. And just trying to figure out best settings here. But again, Mason Pope's gotten off to a good start. There you see the penalties on the board. So Jason Butler in 4th. He still has to serve a drive-through. He was caught out by that. Darcy Ford as well. Corbin McCauley and Cody Cudmore, they've got 3-second penalties to their name, as does Robert Narakaj, who's just made a move for 11th by the looks of things. And Michael Greathouse has 6 seconds worth of penalties as we get everything sorted out. So now we should be able to pull some times in. And so, yeah, now you see gaps to the leader as we see Darcy Ford making a move here on Cody Cudmore. That'll be for 6th place. And it looks like it's done in those final couple corners here, as Pope's just dropped to 128.513. So clearly intermediates were the answer, and Darcy Ford's recognizing that as he's headed back into pit lane again. I'm not sure if that was a drive-through or what he had to do, but I thought he had gotten that served. Not 100% sure on that, though. We'll have to try and get some confirmation as we progress. As we're watching Corbin McCauley now, he's 7.8 seconds back, as Darcy Cudmore picks up a 10-second time penalty for corner cutting. As you saw that update come in from race control. And I have to say, Reegs, it's nice that we, in fact, are not race control anymore. That the game will actually do that for us.
Yeah, and that might, because of that, that might cause some drivers to have some potentially conflicting opinions. We just saw there a comment from Dan Cudmore about the situation involving being given penalties. So we'll just have to wait and see on how the results will play out whenever we can figure out what the true results will be, considering some of these penalties we may not be fully agreeing on. And yeah, obviously not being race control kind of does help us on our end, but at the same time, though, it's not looking great for some of these drivers who have gotten some time penalties and have not had the most favorable opinions towards them. But again, it's pretty much kind of comes back to Mason Pope continuing to dominate. I swear I'm going to say that every single time, because that's pretty much all that's going on right here.
Yeah, Pope's pretty much got the field down to a pulp right now as it stands. 3.8 seconds the lead over Michael Dimitrov in 2nd place. Colby Luca there in 3rd. Corbin McCauley in 4th, albeit with a few seconds worth of time penalties. And getting word of a 10-second penalty. We're getting some side race control here from Dan Mattiello, seeing some things maybe that I can't. So we appreciate the viewing all the way from New York as we try to fill in some context here in what's been a rather strange Portuguese Grand Prix so far. But again, the one constant, as you see, is the number 95 of Mason Pope, continuing to make his way, not even through the field, just kind of carving the track up, as he's got that gap up to 4 seconds over Michael Dimitrov now. And let's just see, again, not a whole lot, well, I was about to say not a whole lot going on, but it looks like got a bit of a battle down the field between Jason Butler and Darcy Cudmore, as Butler's just taken the position, and Pope's just further improved on his fastest lap, now down to a minute 28.402. So again, it seems like the track is starting to come to those inners a little bit, and don't mind me, it looks like the sky might be getting just a little bit lighter too. I don't think it's going to be finishing under dries here by any means though, as we're on lap number 20 now. Robert Narakaj, meanwhile, puts in a 128.127. That's the new fastest lap of the race. We bring it back to Pope again, just kind of keeping it on the track. That is obviously the name of the game any day, but especially in wet conditions here. And the Rum Runner is absolutely running the show here right now. And again, not a whole lot going on in the way of, again, competitive battling throughout the track, so not really a whole lot to show you potentially, although we can go to Colby Luca as he tries to track down Michael Dimitrov here. This would be for second place. Luca currently 2 seconds back of the number 19. There you see the gap on track. And Luca, if he gets a good run out of this final turn, with Pope getting into the 127s lap-wise now. See if Luca can get onto a straight line here and try to cut down a little bit of the gap, but I think Dimitrov may have actually been faster as Luca comes through turn 1, 2, and 3. And those are hard enough to handle on a regular dry day. We got a yellow in sector 3. That's another Silver Hornet off. Whether that's Cody Cudmore or Darcy. That's Darcy Cudmore off, the number 75. So his night of adventures unfortunately continues as he's found himself down in 11th. And with further penalties to boot. And with, oh, that was the 10-second penalty Mattiello was referring to. As, again, we're working our way back into the proceedings here on lap number 21 of 33. Soon to be 22 as it looks like Hope is coming up towards the line once again. 4.7-second gap between himself and Michael Dimitrov in second place. And again, that gap between second and third holding fairly steady. Colby Luca about 2.3 seconds back there right now. And we'll go ahead and put intervals in as we see Hope putting down another fastest lap, 127.591. So man just keeps getting faster and faster here. And well, go ahead.
And yeah, for a driver that did not show up for Bahrain, this is definitely a great debut, at least this season for Mason Pope here. And yeah, the amount of penalties I'm seeing here, it's basically like half the grid right here that has suffered from time penalties. And yeah, Darcy Ford with the 10-second penalty, that is not at all.
Sorry, I'll jump in on that. Darcy Cudmore's got it.
Oh, it's Cudmore. I apologize. There's the other Darcy, but yeah, that is definitely not something he wanted. Michael Dimitrov, second place there. He got third place back at Bahrain, and going for second place here. That'd be back-to-back podiums. A runner-up is definitely not. It's not a win, but it's still another solid finish for him to stay up there in the standings. I mean, yeah, Dan Cudmore and Zach Sullivan kind of falling back there position-wise, so he'll definitely have the potential to move up and possibly take first or second place here in the standings. And Colby Luca tied for 5th in the standings, finished 6th at Bahrain. He'll possibly move up here as well, as long as... how much of a penalty does Macaulay have right now?
I can tell you, meanwhile, we just saw Darcy Ford make a move on Jason Butler for 8th place. Easily the closest battle on track right now. And you wanted penalties? I will give you penalties. Macaulay still just at the 3 seconds from earlier. So not so bad. 6.5 seconds the gap between himself and Dan Cudmore. So that's still a net 4th place. And we'll see as Darcy Ford crosses the line. He's got the fastest lap of the race right now, as the previous lap he put in a 127.3, if I do recall. Let's see if I can find that. I had it. Oh, yeah. There we go. Fastest lap. Yeah, Darcy Ford, 127.345 was the lap that he put in. Not that previous one, but the one before. So he, once again, is on pace for that fastest lap point.
I mean, yeah, that point would definitely be integral. I mean, yeah, it's only 1 point, but again, though, is you still got to get as many points as you possibly can. But yeah, scoring the fastest lap, yet he's all the way back in 8th place right now. So yeah, I mean, getting the fastest lap is definitely an accomplishment, but that's not a position that he'll... I mean, it is, to be fair, it is an improvement over his 10th place finish in Bahrain, and now he currently sits 8th in the standings. However, though, that finish in that qualifying position, though, it may not do a whole lot of changing for him in the standings, although I won't try to underestimate that. He could move up potentially, though we'll have to wait and see here. But yeah, just not too much improvement besides being very fast with lap times, but just position-wise for the race itself, and maybe a bit of qualifying too in a sense, just not really there for him. But again, though, it's only round 2. There's still another 9 rounds or whatever it is to go, so still plenty of time for things to improve for him.
Yeah, and in the meantime, he had that point taken away from him anyway. Mason Pope got it into the 27.3s, I believe, and then Robert Narakaj is down into the 27.1. So he's now got the fastest lap point as he tries to track down Ivan Reynolds for 6th place. Reynolds, that's a name we haven't really said a whole lot here tonight, but he's just kind of making his way through the fields. He's just kind of hanging around, and we'll have to see, although... Oh, that was a ghosting as they put Darcy Cudmore a lap down. But this is Robert Narakaj on the back of Ivan Reynolds here now. This will be for 6th place. Narakaj looking for the move. Michael Dimitrov breaks into the 26s. First driver to do that here this afternoon, or evening, wherever you happen to be. As Dan Cudmore picks up a 3-second penalty for exceeding track limits too many times. And we'll see if Narakaj gets a nice line here out of this final turn. Less than 0.4 of a second separating himself and Reynolds on this start-finish straight. Narakaj clearly with the speed, but Reynolds just putting the car in the right position here. And a great job by the Aries Racing driver to maintain 6th place for now. As Butler picks up another 3-second time penalty himself. As, by the way, we're on lap 25 of tonight's Portuguese Grand Prix. Mason Pope continues to lead this one by 4.8 seconds as Darcy Cudmore picks up another 3-second time penalty. A lot of those happening here tonight. As again, Narakaj trying to find his way around. Reynolds, however, just picked up a 3-second penalty for his troubles. He goes wide. Narakaj says, "Thank you very much." He's through into 6th. And now we'll try and bring it up to Colby Luca again here in 3rd. 1.8 seconds back of Michael Dimitrov as they go to complete another lap here. And Luca's just put up the fastest lap of the race, 126.971, as he tries to track down the number 19 Alpha Flow ahead of him. But of course, they're all trying to track down still the number 95 Rum Runner of Mason Pope 4.8-second lead still between himself and Michael Dimitrov in second. And it looks like he's handling things pretty well here overall, it has to be said, as that gap's now gotten up over 5 seconds. Dimitrov, he might be in for a little bit of a fight here at the end of this session, as it looks like Luca is just gradually eating away at that kind of gap. It was down to 1.3 seconds there a moment ago. But again, Dimitrov looking to maintain a decent line all the way through. And again, with this twisty, undulating section with so many of these elevation changes, and we got a yellow in sector 1. Looks like once again another silver Hornet off, and it is Darcy Cudmore who got spun around, but it looks like he's back. But we're into a VSC here, so what this is going to do, it will neutralize the pace here. It's not a full safety car situation, and I don't imagine it'll last too long, but certainly it'll kind of get everybody down to a certain pace before we can go back racing again. So obviously Rieg's not quite as impactful as that first full safety car that we saw a little bit earlier in the race on lap 12, but certainly a little bit of a reset here effectively for the drivers as they look to navigate these final 6.5 laps and try to do something, as Butler picks up a corner cutting penalty. That'll be another 3 seconds on his time.
Oh, the time penalties just keep coming and coming and coming. There's only like what, let me see here, like maybe like 4.
Sorry to interject. Michael Dimitrov has just picked up a time penalty, 3 seconds, so that'll put Colby Luca into a net second right now, as that gap is 1.4 seconds. And McCauley, he would be 4th, but he's got a 3-second penalty of his own to deal with, so effectively a net 3rd for Michael Dimitrov right now, and he picks up a drive-through penalty for speeding into the VSC. Oh
my goodness.
So, Colby Luca, net 2nd here now, and that is just disaster for Michael Dimitrov, whether, as the track is green, by the way, I wonder if he was just a little too trigger happy off the start, as, everybody's coming in here. I wonder if we're getting some slicks. I wonder, have the conditions changed enough for that?
Things are starting to get crazy here. We got a virtual safety car, now we're getting penalty after penalty after penalty, and now we're getting a bunch of drivers that are coming in for the slick tire compounds, so there's just a bunch of wild stuff all over the place here, and a bunch of these time penalties might end up causing some drivers here to end up getting some certain positions. We might have a bunch of flip-flopping whenever we get to the race results, but yeah, there's only like 3 or 4 drivers now at this point that are not in the time penalty at least anymore. Maybe only 1 or 2 of them have not gotten one at all in the race if they're lucky enough. So yeah, this game is just being absolutely cruel to some of these drivers here through the wet conditions here. So it's kind of funny, in the first race it went from it screwing over us to now starting to screw over the drivers in a way. But yeah, again though, with the virtual safety car, it's different than the safety car, because under the safety car you have, obviously you're behind the safety car and you have to be slowed down right behind it and such, but then with the virtual safety car you can still go at a fair speed in some parts of the track, but you do have to kind of keep yourself cautious. It's not like there's an actual safety car out there, but you still need to be careful, because if you do speed under the virtual safety car, then there will be problems. But then again though, in saying that, there's already been a bunch of time penalties, because these track conditions have not helped at all in terms of having these drivers get through this race successfully. So coming down to these final few laps here, we're just going to have to wait and see here on what's going to happen. If someone might end up possibly, will Mason Pope's domination be able to keep him hanging on for the win, or we might possibly see a bit of an upset?
We're going to find out soon enough, as we're mentioning the drivers who have come in. They've made the switch to the soft compounds. Dan Cudmore has not made that switch. He just passed pit lane there a moment ago. He's still sticking it out on the intermediates, and he briefly had the fastest lap of the race. He is the race leader, albeit, again, with a 3-second time penalty, so net gap on the track between himself and Mason Pope, 1.2 seconds. So if Pope gets that between or underneath 3 seconds, he is the net leader of the race once again, and he's on the soft tires. As it certainly looks like the conditions have improved to the point where the soft compounds are fine. DRS enabled, there's your answer. Dan Cudmore, it looks like he's going to be caught out here on old intermediates, and that is probably going to wreck his race here, to be quite honest. Hitting 1 lap too late. As you see that gap just melting away here. Down to 2.4 on track. So more than enough for Pope to be the net leader. And, well, Cudmore's going to stick it out.
I mean, yeah, very unlucky circumstances considering he won Bahrain and was coming into this race, had a bit of a weird couple qualifying sessions before the Portuguese Grand Prix here tonight. But yeah, it looked like he potentially had the opportunity to upset Mason Pope's dominance of a Grand Prix here tonight. But unfortunately, some weird circumstances right here. They're going to catch him in a bad situation. So it looks like Mason Pope will, based on the penalty that Cudmore has here, he'll likely have to win in hand unless something absolutely some catastrophe happens.
A catastrophic catastrophe, and Dan Cudmore just had one. We saw it right in front of Mason Pope as Pope is taking the lead once again on track. Cudmore just playing chicken with those intermediate tires. He's gotten himself absolutely roasted.
Yeah, it's always as soon as I say something has to happen, you know? It's always like that. Yeah, I just saw the replay there. Pope, I believe it was, Pope and Cudmore just going through right there, and then Cudmore just... It's funny, you see the camera change right there to the front of the car, and then right in front of you, just see a car go whoop right into the grass to the right. So, yeah, the kind of the graphic we're seeing on the right side here kind of blocked off another bit of a fair angle there to get that. But yeah, that was a bit of an awkward angle. That was out of nowhere. But yeah, just not great circumstances here for Dan Cudmore. It's just been an overall very unlucky night after only qualifying like 8th, and then in the race he actually had an opportunity to slash a Mason Pope dominance, but it's not going to happen, and it looks like Mason Pope is going to be on his way to victory in his first race of the 2022 F1 season.
Indeed so. He's got a gap of 8.5 seconds between himself and second place Colby Luca on track right now. No penalties for either of them. Corbin McCauley third, albeit again with a 3-second penalty, although I believe Robert Narakaj is in the same boat. Indeed he is, as is Dan Cudmore, Ivan Reynolds and Michael Dimitrov. So 3 through 7 all dealing with time penalties. Only one who would be affected right now, no, that would all be neutralized. Darcy Ford won't get another position from that, as he's at 12 seconds back, as Pope goes to be in lap number 32 of 33, so 2 laps to go, as it looks like his early gamble to go to the softs, it is working like an absolute charm here for the number 95. As we will kind of follow him along here in the last couple laps, maybe get one last look at that battle for third. McCauley trying to hold on here, as Cody Cudmore picks up another 3-second time penalty for his troubles. And, this is actually a battle for second here. This is Luca and McCauley here you're seeing on track. And that battle is just 0.4 of a second separating those two, although, again, it has to be said, Corbin McCauley does have that 3-second time penalty, so more breathing room here for Colby Luca to work with. So, with that in mind, we will go back to Mason Pope, and clearly, yeah, the difference in the track, it's night and day here now from what it was at the start of the race, and again, had the perfect opportunity to kind of work his way into pit lane to get onto those softs early, and now he's got himself a sizable lead as he's onto the final lap of tonight's Portuguese Grand Prix. So it's going to be Mason Pope holding on here through those first couple of turns for the final time now. As we'll just follow this last lap on board here, at least we'll try to. There we go. Might help if we have the right camera to do all that, of course. As again, we'll just take that kind of final lap tour with the number 95 as he works his way around. Gets through turn 5 for the final time. And we'll just go ahead and get rid of the overlay here too. We're finally able to see everything. For those unaware, the overlay was only there to mask the giant spectator mode menu. So we like to add a little bit of presentation value. And speaking of value, Mason Pope, full value for drive here tonight. Started on pole. He's going to go wire to wire here, barring something in the final couple corners. But he handles that sweeper rather nicely. And so as he comes through that final bend, again, we are going to just follow along with him to victory lane. There's the weaving starting. There's the checkered flag, and there is your winner. The number 95 Rum Runners racing car of Mason Pope. And really, Reeves, just a dominant performance from start to finish.
Well, yes, he was able to put on an incredible gap against the second place car, pretty much every single car throughout the race. And there was a bit of a scare there involving Dan Cudmore whenever that virtual safety car came out in the final couple laps, and we saw kind of these little strategies with tire compounds and such. And unfortunately, Cudmore stayed on the intermediates while Mason Pope, along with a bunch of other drivers, went to the small compounds as the track started to dry up after all the nasty wet conditions. Eventually, were able to improve over the course of the race, especially like towards the end parts of the Grand Prix. So yeah, Mason Pope